What up, YouTube? Just here grabbing a morning cup of coffee. And by morning, I mean afternoon, because, you know, afternoons are mornings for poker players. As I mentioned previously in my last vlog, I was kind of having a couple of different thoughts on how I can proceed for creating content for this channel. And one of which was just kind of trying to put out straight hand history or hand analysis. The folks over at the Cash Game Festival allow me to use their footage. The Cash Game Festival is actually a group of events, mostly in Europe is my understanding, where it's sort of like a tournament. They have a schedule, but instead of tournaments, it's just cash games. And during that period, they host sort of a live at the bike stream of their cash games. So I'll be able to analyze the footage from this. Thankfully, it will make the whole process just a ton easier on me. So I hope you enjoy that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let's get on with the first video.
Well, wasn't that fancy? Alright, what we have here is a stream from a 2-5 cash game over in Bulgaria. There's an early position limp with ace-6 offsuit. I'd prefer to see a fold here. This hand just does not play very well post-flop, especially when looking at the fact that he is in early position. Right after him, we see that Merrick picks up ace-queen offsuit and elects to raise to $30. I think this is a pretty standard raise, especially in a live cash game. Unfortunately for him, Miroslav right after him picks up ace-king suited and, of course, 3-bets. I like his 3-bet sizing. We want to see probably something in the range of 3x plus the original limper as well as the blind, so I think 110 is a good sizing. Oh, but what do we have here? Faradine picks up pocket jacks in the big blind. Now, this is a precarious situation that I think we have to tread lightly. The issue here is that if you do flat out of position, I think your hand often looks like a pocket pair between 7s and jacks. In a spot such as this, I'll personally have a mixed strategy of flatting as well as 4-betting. Which I'll choose will be based on game flow and table dynamics. If I've seen that Miroslav has been loose aggressive, often raising and re-raising, then I will most definitely 4-bet, as our hand is too strong to just call out of position. Given that Faradine is 400 big blinds deep and out of position, I think I lean towards just calling, as a 4-bet is really overplaying our hand. If he were to be faced with a 5-bet, I think we have a pretty clear fold, unless Miroslav is an absolute maniac. Similarly, if Miroslav does call, then playing this hand out of position in a bloated pot can be extremely tricky. We do see that Faradine elects to call. Now Merrick finds himself between a rock and a hard place. Many people will think that folding ace-queen here is just too weak, but given the action, this is a clear fold to me. I don't mind mixing in some 4-bets a small percentage of the time, as we do block some big hands. That being said, calling, in my opinion, is out of the question, as our hand will often be up against big pairs as well as ace-king. There aren't many boards we can be excited about playing for stacks, and so I like his decision to find a fold here. We are now heads up to a flop, which comes king 10-7 with 2 diamonds. Faradine elects to check, which I think is the correct standard play here. There is no reason to step out of game flow and lead into the pre-flop 3-better when we hold a pair between the flop top and middle pair. Miroslav will get to play perfectly, and I don't expect him to fold here ever unless he has complete garbage. Even then, I think he'll float a decent percentage of the time since he has position. Now Miroslav, having flopped top-top on a fairly coordinated board, has a decision to make on betting or checking. I believe this is a clear bet, as there are a number of straight and flush draws. That being said, it's our goal to target Faradine's range here to extract maximum value. As I mentioned previously, Faradine's most likely holdings are pocket pairs. I would also throw in some combinations of suited Broadway aces such as ace-jack and ace-queen, with the occasional suited Broadway connectors such as jack-10, queen-jack, and king-queen if Faradine is on the looser side. On this flop, I like betting around half pot so we can get looked up by pairs such as 8s, 9s, jacks, and queens. If we were to bet too large, then it's difficult to get value from weaker hands. This is a mistake I'll often see from novice players who in 3-bet pots get excited with their hand and end up betting way too much. What they don't realize is that when they finally end up getting action, their 1-pair hands will often be beat, or perhaps only the strongest of draws will continue. It's our goal to extract maximum value, and so I love Miroslav's bet of 130. Action is back on Faradin, and he of course finds himself with a difficult decision. Depending on Miroslav's tendencies, I don't mind a fold here. It is definitely an exploitable strategy, as we are just burning money if we continue to call 3 bets out of position and continue to check fold on boards we don't improve upon. That being said, I think continuing on king-high boards such as this against competent opponents is also a losing play, mainly because we do find ourselves out of position. If we call, we are hoping that the hand will check down or that we can turn equity to continue. Against good thinking opponents, I don't expect this to happen very often. Calling the flop can often snowball into further difficult decisions, and this is why position is one of, if not the most important things in poker. Given the flop bet sizing, Faradin is getting 3-1 on a call, and he elects to continue. I can't say I fault him too much, as the price is right. The turn comes the 9 of hearts, which is one of the cards we mentioned that would allow him to continue, as he now has a double belly buster, needing an 8 or a queen for a straight. This is the best turn he could have asked for, other than a jack or a queen. Another reason to possibly fold the flop is that we don't have the jack of diamonds, further reducing our outs to improve on various runouts. Again, Faradin elects to check. Other than a diamond, this is one of the more precarious turns for Miroslav, as the obvious queen-jack straight draw gets there. That being said, I don't think Miroslav has to worry too much here about Faradin having that exact hand. In my opinion, Miroslav's decision to bet here is based upon whether his hand can get 3 streets of value. I don't think top pair top kicker is a candidate for betting turn and river, as it will be difficult to get called by worse. I don't mind checking back here since the board is fairly scary and betting will only get value from flush draws, which I expect to make up a small portion of Faradin's range. By checking, he gets to disguise the strength of his hand while also seeing what his opponent will do on the river. He'll give Faradin the opportunity to bluff with worse hands, and if Faradin again does check, he can bet for value. We see that Miroslav does check it back, and we head to a river, which is the 5 of spades. Faradin has a pretty clear check here, as he is unlikely to get called by worse if he does bet. Some players will choose to lead small here as a blocker against having to call a larger bet themselves. I hate this play, since good players will see right through this. They're not likely to call with worse, and you open the door to being bluff raised. Again, being out of position, Faradin finds himself at the mercy of the poker gods. All he's thinking is, please check, please check, please check. Of course, there will be no checks here for Miroslav. Well, except for yours truly commentating. Miroslav has a slam dunk value bet once check 2 on the turn and river. Sizing is important here, as anything too small will look like exactly what it is, and anything too large will have a hard time getting called. Something around 3/5 pot is probably the sweet spot. Oh Miroslav, you sly dog, you just keep impressing me with your play. Faradin has unfortunately made his bed, and he's going to have to lie in it. As the hand has played, it looks a lot like Miroslav has some one-pair hand that pot controlled the turn and is now betting the river for value. Faradin has played his hand exactly like what it is. Fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately for him, he does possess 2 key cards on this board. We now arrive upon a theory which I've come up with that I think is really interesting. In No Limit Hold'em, what I have found to be true time and again is that people generally don't bluff raise the river. That being said, when someone has bet the river for value, believing that they have the best hand, they will often find it way too hard to find a fold once raised. Now I know these 2 points are a big contradiction. If people don't tend to bluff raise the river, then why are players often calling the raises only to lose? I think the key reason is because they're only one call away from finding out if they win or lose, and since they bet thinking they were winning, they just have to call and see. When I realized that most people weren't bluff raising rivers, I started to do it every single time my opponent's ranges were capped. Unfortunately for me, what I also discovered was that people really hate folding the river once they bet with what they believe was the best hand, even when that's just top pair. Faradin finds himself in that exact situation here. He realizes that Miroslav's hand is most likely just one pair. As I previously mentioned, holding 2 jacks, Faradin decides to turn his straight blockers into a bluff and jams all in. Unfortunately for him, Miroslav is just too smart. He understands that Faradin would never play a value hand in this manner. What hand check calls the flop, and then checks both the turn and river that beats Miroslav. We already said that Queen Jack makes up a very small portion of Feyerdien's range since he cold called the 3-bet out of the blinds. If he had flopped a set, he would likely lean towards raising such a draw-heavy board. As played, I myself can't put Feyerdien on a value hand, and as Durr once said, when things don't make sense, I call. Miroslav too is a smart cookie and he sniffs out the bluff. All in all, a sick river play by Feyerdien, but Miroslav wasn't fooled. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video in the comment section below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications for new videos. Also, be sure to check out the Cash Game Festival on YouTube, Twitch, and other social media. Thanks for watching!